Well, the West Asia crisis is well into its fourth week in a conflict that has already triggered a global oil shock, closed the Strait of Hormuz, and now raises the stakes to an even higher level, with growing questions over whether President Donald Trump is preparing for a full-scale ground invasion of Iran. Hello and welcome to NewsX Deep Dive. Today we break down the military escalation on the ground. Is Trump ready for boots on Iranian soil? We explain the US buildup, Iran's defenses, the options on the table, and what America has already moved into position near Iran. Well, the US military buildup in the Middle East is now the largest since the 2003 Iraq invasion. 2 aircraft carrier strike groups, multiple amphibious assault ships, and thousands of Marines are already in theater or streaming towards it. While Iran has started laying traps on key oil infrastructure in anticipation of a possible ground move, US President Donald Trump has not publicly ordered ground troops into Iran, but multiple reports say he has privately expressed serious interest in limited ground operations, describing them as targeted and necessary to secure the strait. Tehran has responded by calling any such move a suicidal ruse and warning that US forces would be humiliated if they attempted a landing. Current US naval presence includes the USS Abraham Lincoln and USS Gerald Ford, along with the USS Tripoli and USS Boxer amphibious ready groups carrying over 2,500 Marines from the 31st and 11th Marine Expeditionary Units. The Pentagon is also weighing deployment of up to 3,000 troops from the 82nd Airborne Division, all positioned to support operations around the Strait of Hormuz and Kharg Island. The number has changed significantly as compared to the 1st of February, when there were around 30,000 US troops in the region. Well, the buildup is not happening in a vacuum. It comes as the war, which started with joint US-Israel airstrikes on the 28th of February, has already destroyed much of Iran's missile and drone production. But Iran has retaliated by effectively closing the Strait of Hormuz and fortifying key positions. But how is Iran preparing for the possible incursion? Well, Iran's buildup is centered on asymmetric defense. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps has moved thousands of troops to the Persian Gulf coastline, laid traps and anti-access weapons around Kharg Island, which handles 90% of Iran's oil exports, and positioned mobile anti-ship missile batteries along the Strait of Hormuz. The IRGC has also deployed over 150,000 troops along the coast, making a very strong statement as far as negotiations over the Strait of Hormuz are concerned. Senior Iranian commanders have publicly mocked the idea of a US ground invasion, saying the terrain and their prepared positions would turn any landing into a strategic failure. So what are the options before the United States? Let's look at them clearly. Option 1, limited ground operation, deploy Marines and airborne troops to secure Kharg Island and key choke points in the Strait of Hormuz. This would be a short, high-risk mission to reopen oil flows without a full occupation. Option 2, air and naval only, continue strikes while using the 2 carriers and destroyers to enforce a blockade. No boots on the ground. Option 3, full ground invasion, a large-scale amphibious and airborne assault deep into Iran. Experts warn this would require hundreds of thousands of troops and could cost dearly in lives and dollars, far beyond current deployments. The map shows the Strait of Hormuz as the clear focal point. Any ground move would likely start from US bases in Gulf and target Kharg Island first. Trump has options, but all of them carry heavy costs, and the administration is still weighing whether the strategic gain of reopening the strait justifies the risk of ground troops. Look at these latest reports from Kharg Island. Iran is actively preparing defenses, including traps and heavy missile coverage, clearly anticipating a possible US move to take the island and restore oil exports. What exactly has the US already moved near Iran is the big question. Well, the numbers are of course significant. The US has moved 2 full carrier strike groups into the Arabian Sea, 3 warships, and thousands of Marines on amphibious ships are arriving this week. Additional air assets, including F-35S and F-22S, have been forwarded to bases in Qatar, UAE, and Jordan, and the Pentagon is actively considering the 82nd Airborne for rapid deployment. All of this is positioned to either support a limited ground operation or deter Iran from further closing the strait. And so the question hangs over the region tonight. Is President Trump ready for a ground invasion? The buildup suggests the option is very much on the table, but for now it remains a high-risk choice amidst an already devastating war and global energy crisis. The West Asia conflict is far from over, and the next few days could determine whether this stays an air-sea war or becomes America's next major ground campaign in the Middle East. Stay with NewsX for more update, but we're going to talk about this. Joining us on the program is Major General G.G. Dwivedi, defense and geopolitical expert. Sir, appreciate you joining us. What are the odds, according to you, that America will jump in Iran with boots on the ground? And is that something Iran can survive?
Thank you, Vineet. Always a pleasure to be on your show. I think you have given a fairly detailed background as to what the ground situation is in Iran and in the Middle East. Now, let's break it up into a couple of segments. Firstly, how the war has gone on. Well, war is a mixed bag so far. As far as the Israelis and Americans are concerned, they have degraded the Iranian military potential to great degree, because there's no air force as far as Iran is concerned. The navy is almost defunct, and they have locked off large number of their missile launches. But the point is that Iranian regime is in place, and that is what is one of the worries of the Americans. And secondly, how the asymmetric warfare by Iran has now three trump cards. One is the weaponizing of the Strait of Hormuz. Secondly, ability of Iran to hit economic and the military targets in the Gulf and also in Israel. And third point is that they still have the Hezbollah very active, and other two militias, Houthis, can also be activated, as also the Hamas. Now, why would Trump opt to go for the ground operation? There are two very simple reasons. In case Iran does not respond to the 15-point plan which have been unveiled by President Trump, and interlocutors have conveyed it, then he'll like to put more pressure. And secondly, if the Strait of Hormuz is not opened, then possibly President Trump has the option to carry out very limited surgical type of operation. And I have served in the special forces, where such operations are very precise, surgical, and they will ensure that they suffer minimum casualties. For that, one will be the element of surprise, and secondly, the target that will be selected will be softened up immensely by both the naval forces and the air force. And of course, third island is one of the options that is on the table for President Trump. Now the question is, it's a high risk option, definitely, because when you launch troops either through the amphibious means or through the air means, then both options are available, because the two task forces, as I said, USS Tripoli with about 2,200 Marines and USS Boxer with about 5,000 amphibious troops, and one brigade of 82 Airborne Division has also been moved. So therefore, as the force is concerned, I think President Trump has adequate forces. As the target is concerned, it has to be very precise and surgical. But the third option, which you have said, overall, or the overwhelming ground operation all across the Iranian soil or the mainland, I think that is ruled out, because that will serve no purpose. So my precise summation is that Trump has the option to execute ground operation. That will only happen in case the Iranian regime does not come to the negotiation table and continues to block the Strait of Hormuz. Vineet.
Sir, always a pleasure having you. Thank you so much for those incisive and precise thoughts pertaining to this war. We take a short break now. We'll be right back.